Let's talk about Sting versus Hogan 1 from 1997 Starrcade. Let me get into the first basics. Like everyone knows, this was a feud building up for the past 15 months, maybe 18 months, I think they said, according to the commentators when I watched the match. Sting had remained silent during the whole war with WCW versus NWO. He had declared his intentions to stay loyal to WCW, and it made sense since Sting was the face of WCW. He was loyal to WCW. His history was always with WCW, so that made him the perfect candidate to oppose the NWO, specifically Hollywood Hulk Hogan. So, with this year-long build-up, fans, this was the highest-rated pay-per-view buy of all time at the time, and that was the closest thing they had to a WrestleMania. Well, at least until Goldberg versus Hogan, which I will talk about in a future video, where they were expecting a massive collision of titans, the biggest match of all time. It was praised to be the second coming of wrestling and all of that, and it was with a what ending. Where, okay, like the match, I looked at it like, okay, the plan, according to Bischoff, was to do a dusty finish where where Nick Patrick does a fast count, and then Bret Hart steps in to do a Montreal Screwjob to Hollywood Hulk Hogan, and that was the plan according to Bischoff because they changed it. I'll get to that in a bit. So, like, and then the referee didn't do that and did a normal count 1, 2, 3. That was a clean victory then, with occasional dirty tactics. But this is Hollywood Hogan, so he's a heel. So, like, the match was Like, it didn't really live up to the hype. Like, at the time, everyone was like praising it, but when they got to look at it later on, they were like, yeah, that was not the great. That did not live up to the hype. And it took a few months, I think, when Super Bowl 8 happened, when they did the rematch, which I'll talk about in a future video. Um, Sting and Hogan, like, they tried. I can tell they tried. Like Hogan, but mostly Hogan politicking was all over the place. Like, you can tell a mile away that, yeah, this was politicked. Yeah, Eric Bischoff let Hogan get away with some things. Like, it's always, but okay, like, the match was the ending was WTF. So let's get to what really is the meat and potatoes of this match. It's mostly the aftermath and the stuff that's the controversy surrounding it. Let's start with the aftermath. Like, afterwards, Sting wins the WCW World Title from Hollywood Hulk Hogan in Montreal Screwjob fashion just a month after Montreal Screwjob actually happened. And then 10 days later, Sting is forced to vacate the title because of the controversy. Like, they did have a match the next night on Nitro where it ended prematurely because the show had to go off the air. So that happened, and I bet a lot of people were upset, and except the people in the audience at least. Then a few days later, on the premiere of Thunder in 1998, Sting was forced to vacate the title, and they had to do a rematch at Super Brawl. So, yeah, not a good day. And everyone looks at that now as like, yeah, that was that was the beginning of the decline of WCW. Like, they were still doing healthy ratings, they were still at a peak at the company, but like that was when you start to see the cracks start to slowly form, and then it starts to become more and more prominent throughout 1998. And we all know what happened with WCW afterwards in 2001. So, yeah. Now, the big thing that's always talked about is the controversy surrounding it. Everyone had looked at this and said, oh, Hulk Hogan did something with it. It was him. He politicked everything. He controlled everything. He did everything to prevent losing the title. Because Eric Bischoff has come out, and there have been a lot of wrestlers also from that night coming out and saying, like, yeah, the original plan was Hogan was supposed to lose to Sting cleanly. And Eric Bischoff said, well, that plan was changed because um, you see, when Sting came to the show, he was really out of shape, and like I watched the match several times, and like Sting didn't look out of shape to me. Like, yeah, he wore a t-shirt, but I felt like that was just part of the design for the character to get a grand WrestleMania-like appearance. Like, since they like to do that from time to time. So, like, I was thinking, like, well, wait, he doesn't look out of shape. In fact, he looked like he was just okay. He had ring rust. He hadn't wrestled in a year. Since really he didn't wrestle in a year, he didn't even partake in Japan dealings. So he didn't wrestle for a year. So yeah, the ring rust was there, but he didn't look out of shape. He actually looked great. And Sting has been known as a super great professional wrestler. Very professional when it comes to business and is willing to do what's best for business. Even if some questionable decisions are made, WrestleMania 31 could be accounted for that. He'll just do the job because he believes it's what's best for business. Like how he agreed to let Triple H go over him since the original plan was for, from what I gather, was Triple H was to lose to Sting, but Sting wanted to lose because he felt like this would be his last match, but it turned out not to be the case, which made it completely entirely meaningless. No, his match with Seth Rollins would be the last match, but that's way later in years, and I've already covered Seth Rollins' match with him. So Bischoff says Sting was out of shape. Every other wrestler except Sting, for some reason, has come out and said Sting was not out of shape. Hulk Hogan changed the finish. And when Bischoff has kind of been very biased with it since, well, Hogan and him are best friends since they kind of got together as friends, got along since Bischoff wasn't really being a boss. He was becoming, as Booker T would say in the Monday Night Wars documentary, one of the boys. And especially Larry Zbyszko saying now he's listening to ideas that benefits the Hulk, ideas that benefit Nash, that benefit Hall, not for the business, where he thought they were the elite. So that really shows the sign that, yeah, Hogan was probably using him that night. So, like, the plan was for Sting to beat Hogan clean. But there are a ton of stories going out saying, oh, the ending was changed because he was out of shape, even though he doesn't look out of shape. Oh, the ending was changed because Hulk Hogan whined to everybody and said, I want creative control. I want creative control. Okay, you're the booker. Now what I do? And, well, I'm while it while I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility of Sting getting out of shape, I highly doubt it since he was really great at being professional with his work, and especially this was billed as the biggest match of his career. I wouldn't think he would get lazy for it. And the reason why I wouldn't be surprised if Hulk Hogan creative controlled everything was because, well, it's Hulk Hogan. Considering his past moments when it comes to the booking committee, like the Jeff Jarrett incident, the Ric Flair incidents, the I'm gonna ruin Ultimate Warrior's moment for a bit and steal the spotlight a bit, and a lot of other questionable things that, oh, especially Shawn Michaels, like how Shawn Michaels fitted it. I'll get to say that at the end. So we don't know the real story. In fact, I'm surprised I've never found an interview where Sting talked about Starrcade. I don't think he ever spoke about that. I could be wrong. I could find an article later on after this video, so I could be wrong on that. Now, lastly, like, they would do a second match at Super Brawl, and I'll get to that in another video. And yeah, like Starrcade's big hyped up match was like they really and like okay, it's for the WCW World Title. I get that, but this is the same mistake WWE made when they did Triple H versus Sting. There's no sense of tension. He could win this match, he could lose this match, it wouldn't change anything. The NWO would still exist even without the belt. Uh, and whereas in WWE, when they went with Sting versus Triple H, even if Sting won, the authority still exists. They just get mad that Sting won. So they should have added a stipulation where if Sting beats Hulk Hogan, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, then the NWO has to disband. Their company has to go out of business. Like, I felt like Starrcade 97 should have been the end of the NWO storyline. Like, it should have ended there. Like, if I was the booker, and I'm not saying I would have done it better because that's up for debate, I would have had a point-based system where there would be an amount of matches, and each match NWO brings out their best, WCW brings out their best. They get to fight, and each match, whoever wins, if one team wins that match, they earn a point. WCW earns a point. Then they're tied, and then Sting and Hogan is the deciding finish that will decide the future of WCW and NWO. Sting and is just pure chaos, and they should have made it no DQ to help build up the tension. To have NWO members interfere, to have WCW wrestlers interfere, like basically go overbook crazy because this match had to live up to the hype, so they're gonna have to pull out the big guns this time. And Sting would ultimately get Hogan in the Scorpion Deathlock, and like Scorpion Deathlock, I think it was called. I know Scorpion Death Drop, Scorpion Lock, um, where that would be the deciding finish, and Sting would win the match, win the belt, and put the NWO out of business. Making way for new storylines, new directions for every wrestler, and new opportunities for the younger guys. And maybe WCW would still be in business had they done something like that, or just anything than what we got, or letting Hogan get his way. So those are my thoughts on Sting versus Hogan at Starrcade. This was Neo Reality Entertainment. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and donate. Stay tuned for more. And to quote Shawn Michaels about Hulk Hogan's business, it's funny that the most successful people in this business are, the most insecure.